mentality and our way of thinking. And I've been thinking about it a lot. And it's just like, many folks, whenever we talk about voting, because it's so important, will tell me like, well, Layla, your people, 23% of your people, voted for Trump. And I'm like, are those 23% the white Latinos? Because yes, they did. And they should be counted with the white people, not with my people, because that's very different. Like our perspectives are different. Our lives are different. So I think in that matter, yes. I think when it comes to our indigenous groups, absolutely. There's a whole bunch of indigenous people throughout Latin America who are like, don't call me Latino because the Latinos are killing us.
So when I'm a white Latina, though, and I vote for Biden, do you not want that represented to show that there is a shift?
I think it's just talking about the granularity of what those numbers mean, right?
You think it should be broken down more?
Yes.
Okay, that's okay. All right, yeah. Gotcha.
And I think it needs to be broken down more so we have an understanding of it. And I think it's not broken down more because of the umbrella of Latinidad in the U.S. and them wanting us to feel like if we break down anymore, we're losing a sense of who we are. It's planned. It's literally been planned and concocted to be this way.
So what is the answer to that, you think? Like, what should our response be, in your opinion, to that?
In response to what?
Well, because I get a lot of followers, they come from two schools of thought. One school of thought is that, yes, that actually that is true, that we are stronger together right now because, we can't even get white America to accept Black lives, right? And are they even ready for the conversation to understand that someone from Nicaragua is different than someone from the Dominican Republic, is different from someone from Mexico, from Cuba? If they're not even ready to understand the Black life, like the Black American experience in the United States. So there's a school of thought that it, as much as it sucks, that we have to unite because it's easier for them to understand, which we lose technically when we do that from your point of view. And I understand that. But how do we continue to gain in this system that we're in without uniting?
It's not the matter,
or blocking, I should say.
Right. It's not the matter of not uniting. I think we should, but I think what's been happening to us in the U.S. is the facade that we're united. I think that's the first problem.
Yes.
And I think because we believe that in the essence of oh, that's familia, we got this. I think because we have inherently closed our eyes to all the problems that we have in Latinidad in order to be united.
I see what you're saying.
It literally is allowing for the worst of us to continue to rot us from the inside out.
Wow.
Wow, that's really powerful. That's really interesting that you say that. You see, because my perspective is so different because in my culture, that racism is out loud. It is very clear. Nosotros no estamos los mexicanos. Ellos son diferentes. Or, Puerto Ricanos, they're American. Or we don't like Dominicans because of this. So that concept of Latinidad, in my experience, in my Cuban community, it doesn't exist. We're Cuban. We're superior. And if we're white, we're even more superior. And if we're American, we have succeeded. You know what I mean? It's this whole different mentality. Whereas my friends from other cultures have the strong sense of Latinidad that I did not grow up with. But you're saying that even that I'm seeing is a facade.
I think so. And if you come and think about it, that's happening to you through your Cuban lens, because most of the time you're probably the majority of the Latinos in that space. That is going to happen to whatever Latino is the majority there. Take LA, for example. It's Mexico or nobody. Take New York, for example. It's Puerto Ricans or nobody. That's literally what it is. Depending on the pocket where you are, geography. The Latino that's the majority is the superior. Point blank, period. And that's where you see the Mexican hegemony, I think is how you pronounce the word. Hegemony? Yes.
Hegemony. I thought it was hegemony.
I'm like, eh. So yeah, so the Mexican hegemony, is that it? So that's where so that's where you see Mexican hegemony. So when you even talk about Central America, people automatically think Mexico. And it's first of all, Mexico is a part of North America.
Yep.
Right? Or where I'll tell folks like, oh, my friend from El Salvador, and they'll be like, where in Mexico is that? It's just literally that understanding of like, that is the supreme Latino in this region. So that happens everywhere. And
Okay, that makes sense.
and I think when you're outside of that hegemony, we're all Latinos, we clump up in order for us to all be stronger. It's literally survival of the fittest. And it's not until we're in a space where it's all of us are mixed and we're seeing that we're not on top, when the Cubans and the Mexicans, when the Puerto Ricans, when the Brazilians, when folks see that they're not the majority, then Latinidad comes into play. And that's when it becomes dangerous. Wow. Because at that point, it's like, shut up, we're together, don't be divisive because we have to win. And it's like, you're telling me to be silent the same way that white people tell black people to be silent here in this country. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not understanding that you asking me to stop being divisive is reiterating the violence that's been happening for decades, for centuries, and who we are. So that's why I'm saying it's such a difficult and such a complex thing to discuss. And that's why I was like, we have to talk about it, because if we don't, if you don't open the wound and clean it, that thing is gonna fester.